Style. Style is the answer to everything. A fresh way to approach a dull or dangerous thing. To do a dangerous thing with style is what I call art.
Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. Refuge Tea here with my Granny's Closet, back with another video for you guys. How's everybody doing today? I have been sick all week. Today is the first time that I was actually able to just like function. I got some salsa made right now because salsa is good for when you have a cold. You just put some spicy stuff in your food and you are near to healed. I also have a pot of beans because I need some iron in my system. So I break out all the, the vitamin filled and spicy filled foods when I am not feeling good. Today I'm feeling a lot better than I was Monday and Tuesday. Sunday I started getting really bad, and I was at the meeting for Justice Matters, which is what today's video is going to be about. It's just an update. Like I told you guys, I would do an update once a month whenever we had a seminar or a meeting for it. And then Sunday we did have one. So we're sitting there and I was just like, oh my gosh, leaning my head on my husband's shoulder because I was progressively getting worse and worse and worse. And we talked to our pastor afterwards. We talked to the officers afterwards. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I need to go home. I need to lie down. Monday I woke up and I was feeling it. Yesterday was the worst day. I tried to crochet. I could not pick up my hand, so I just lie down. And that is what my week has been like. Excuse me. My cold is allergy. So just like I did last year, it's the same cold. Everything is just all stuffy and I keep sneezing. Not too much coughing. But how is your week? How is your midweek Wednesday going? What are you working on? Let me know in the comment section down below. And I'm sorry if I sound nasally, but we're going to try and push through this. But before we get into today's video, you guys, let us get into some admin and intro stuff. If you don't know, now you know. You can find me on Pinterest, Instagram, and Facebook. Also on Etsy now, all underneath my Granny's Closet 3Gs. If you're interested in purchasing any of the items that I make and sell at my farmer's market, you can find those on my Facebook page and now also on my Etsy page. Not everything is uploaded on my Etsy page, but I'm slowly and surely starting to add little by little more items to my Etsy page. So if you guys are interested, and it would help me greatly, the algorithm, if you can go and browse around, like and favor some items and favor my page, that would help me out greatly. For my Facebook page, I do sell items there as well if you guys are interested in looking at those. If not, that is perfectly fine. I also have a group page called My Granny's Closet 3Gs. Now, this is the tricky part. Etsy is under My Granny's Closet 3Gs with the S at the end. So is my group page. There's no spacing. You add the S at the end. My group page is where we go to congregate and conversate about all things yarny and crafty goodness. If you guys are wanting to brag about some amazing items that you have made, or if you have an upcoming event, you can post those down below. Ask any questions. We will be glad and happy to answer those for you. If you are new or returning subscriber, thank you for joining me today. You're wonderful. You're wonderful. I really do appreciate each and every single one of you guys. Now I want to watch Bumblebee. Actually, the new... You know what? I think I'm going to watch all the Transformers, but I'm still in the middle of Smallville. Yeah. T-shirt of the day. You guys, properly introducing you to my Muhammad Ali shirt. I purchased this in December. I saw it at this new place at the outlet near where I live, and I was just like, I need to have this. It's Muhammad Ali, the greatest of all times. He's got his famous sayings on here. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. It's hard to be humble when you're as great as I am. And there's another saying down here that says, don't count the days, make the days count. And so many more pictures of him in the ring, on the speed bag, and this one right here on the, let's see, what is that? That's another heavy bag. So yeah, it's just one of my favorite t-shirts. I love to wear this shirt. All right, you guys, while we get into today's video, I am going to crochet. I have my project bag, my project that I'm working on, my Save a Unicorn yarn bowl, and this one is called Serene by Mandala Ombre. The beautiful colors, it's pink and orange. I thought that this would be fitting for me to work on this while I talk a little bit about and give you a little bit of information about what I'm going to be showing you in the next clip and what I'm going to be ending with. And it's about, I want to say 40 minutes long, this video that I'm about to show you. So my intro right now into what we're going to talk about is going to be a little shorter than normal. So I don't want to make this video too long, but I want you guys to be well informed. So this Sunday, we went to a seminar at our church for Justice Matters, as you guys know. We sat through just a truckload of information, trucks and trucks and trucks loads of information. The meeting mainly was about these officers who work in the department where justice matters. And I'm going to be very careful about my wording here, you guys. You guys know what Justice Matters is about. It's about human trafficking. Also, it's about, you know, the many and the plethora of people, sneeze break, excuse me, the plethora of people that are involved and are victims of these acts and crimes. And mainly what was spoken about in the information that we got was acts and crimes against children on the internet. Now, there's sleuths out there on YouTube that do investigate these things and try to find, you know, these people that try to prey on younger humans. Like I said, I'm trying to watch my wording, so please keep that in mind as I use different nouns, verbs, and adjectives to describe what I'm talking about. So we got a plethora, just like so much information. The percentage, like the percentile is so great in this area, and it blew me away and it hurt my heart. Now, the first hour and a half of this seminar, we did sit through an hour and a half of it, and it was mainly the officers telling us about cases that they had worked in where it involved minors and it involved people 30 and over. And I was just like, I knew about this, but to see cases, to read text messages, to see emails, to find out that these things are like happening in your backyard just blows you away. And for a few minutes there, while I was not feeling good during the seminar, I was progressively getting worse, like I said. I had to lean forward, not because I was being sick, but because I was physically ill. Now, I've read in books where people are like, I was physically ill just hearing or seeing or knowing that this could happen. I never knew that that was an actual thing that I could feel for myself personally. But it was. And I was physically ill. I was sick to my stomach. I wanted to get up and run out of the room, just knowing that these things are happening out there to these small humans. And my husband had to, you know, put his arm around me, and he was like, it's okay, babe. And I'm like, it's not okay, you know, and just the things that we heard. Now, I am going to tell you guys that these officers, when I say that they go to bat for these minors, they go to bat for these minors. Now, you guys will see that they have dogs with them, and they will explain later on at the end of the video what these dogs mainly do for them in these investigations and these ongoing investigations. These dogs are also comfort dogs, because what we also learned is that these officers collect evidence. They are tangible, visual evidence that they have to go through, not comb through, but they have to sit through and watch. If they're video evidence, if they're photo evidence, they have to look through each and everything, because somebody has to do it. Somebody has to have the evidence for when you go to court and trial and prosecute these people that are committing these crimes. And so these dogs are mainly there for their comfort after all that is said and done. And these men and women that are on this task force, they deserve everything. Like, I'm physically holding back tears because the things that they talked about, the cases that they had closed, and the people that they had detained and arrested. It makes you feel like there's a weight off your shoulder. But then you read the statistics, you read the percentage of how many are still out there. It's in the thousands, you guys. And I'm talking tens of thousands still out there. And that is in the state of California. And there's over 5,000 in Riverside County, which is the county that my family and I live in. And there's a truck, and it just came to mind, so bear with me here. There was still a truck that a father drives, and he drops his kids off at my school. Every time I'm behind this guy, I see this sticker, and I'm in complete agreement. Now, I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus. Now, I'm going to go with the Angela Johnson take on this one. Like, I love Jesus. I do. If you want to say some curse words at me, say some curse words at me. If you want to yell at me, go ahead and yell at me. But if you're right here, if our eyelashes are braided together,
I will cut you.
That's just a quote from Angela Johnson, you guys, and I'm making light of the joke, but in truth, it has to do with the sticker that I read every day on this gentleman's truck that he drives when he leaves the kids' school after dropping off our kids. It says, all P word, last word file, need to be deceased. And I agree. I 100% agree, because even in the Word of God, even the Bible, it says, the man who harms a child should, pass away. And I'm just paraphrasing here, and I'm giving a rough around the edges because, like I said, I'm watching what I'm saying. I want you guys to get all the information you can out of this. So the first hour and a half of this video, or of the seminar, was just them explaining to us the things that they've encountered, the cases that they have gone through. Not too many statistics, because afterwards, mainly what the whole seminar was to inform us of what is going on out there. The second part of the seminar is how we can prevent it, how we can, prevent our children from becoming prey. I'm not going to be showing the first part of the seminar. I'll explain why at the end of the video. But I will be showing you bits and pieces of the second portion of the seminar. I have to take out certain things because of the wording. Like I said, I don't want to get flagged by YouTube, and I want you guys to be as well informed as possible. Now, in the first portion of the seminar, parents were raising their hands, asking questions. There was a portion at the end there where I do something with my children, and I, stood up or I raised my hand and I said, this is what we do with our kids. My two older boys have phones. My daughter has a tablet. We monitor everything that they do on their phones. So what my husband and I do is, my children know that they don't pay for those phones, so they don't belong to them. They borrow their cell phones from me and their father because we pay for those cell phones. We pay for their access of internet. At the end of the day, their cell phones go into our room, and their tablets, and they charge in our room at my table over here, because I have a large power cord, a power source where they could plug everything in. They know that if I decide to look through their phone to make sure, especially my high schooler, because so many things can transpire. So many, my son has gone through this already at the beginning of the school year, where he met new friends. They were on Discord, and I will tell you, Discord, if your kid has Discord, delete that, because there are so many people on there that are after your kids that will do them harm, persuade them, and they will go after your children. So I was just like, nope, not my kid, not today. So no Discord. Well, my son and him and his friends will go back and forth sending pictures to each other. My son made an obscene gesture with his hand to his friend. thinking it was funny. Boys will be boys, yes, but I'm like, son, you can't be doing that, especially if it's on a active room chat. So they grabbed silly photos of my son that he had sent them, that they were all sending each other, but they only grabbed photos of my son, and they posted it on YouTube. So what I did was I was like, call the kid up. Call the kid up. My son called him. I said, look, I know your parents. I go to the school, I volunteer there, and I've spoken to them. I know who they are. If I will give you 1 hour to take down this video, because if you don't, I will be contacting your parents after school today. And ooh, that was fast. They took it down within 30 minutes. Just be aware, guys. Just be aware. And so I stood up and I said, we keep the kids' phones in their room. They know that their phones are subject to search at any point in time. I don't normally search their rooms. I don't normally do that. I'm not one of those parents. But if you do, you do. Not my business to have a opinion about it. And but my kids know they don't pay for their phones. It's not theirs. They belong to me and my husband. They stay in our rooms. And if there's an app on there that we didn't approve of, that gets deleted. My children always come to me and let me know when there's, and especially with Discord, my son was getting all kinds of corn on his phone from Discord because predators were just sending him all kinds of stuff. Open this, open that. So what we had to do is we had to go down to our phone carrier or provider, and we had to change his number, change his phone, everything, because it was just riddled with spam because of Discord. So he doesn't use it. I told my son, that is it, lesson learned. And the same thing happened to my friend's daughter, which is my son's best friend. She had issues with it as well. So you'll hear in the second portion of this video right now, what I'm going to show you in a few minutes, is them continually referring or referencing me and my husband about the things that we do at the end of the day with my children's cell phones. Now, if they do get grounded from their phones, I turn off their internet. The only time that they are allowed to have access to their phones is their call log, and they're allowed to call emergency, my husband and I, and my mom, and any other family member that, can be contacted or needs to be contacted. Text messages is okay, but I turn off their data because they can't access the internet from that. They can access anybody that they can call, and that's it. And then when they come home, they give me their cell phones back. And that's it. That's when they're grounded from their cell phones. And that's happened quite a few times, especially, teenagers, you kind of have that more awareness of what's going on. I mean, you guys were teenagers in high school, but, those of us that are in the 40 range right now, maybe in the late 30s, we didn't have cell phones in high school. I didn't have a cell phone in high school. I had a pager, but I had a pager at the end of my senior year. I didn't really have too much. It was all that, collect call, please say your name here. Like, Refuge, please come pick me up from track practice. And so that's how we communicated. Collect call without having to pay for it and you hang up. But now there's so much internet, www.worldwideweb.com. It's so vast. There is an endless amount. And when you do your Google search and your search engines, Google is now taking your lookup, what you're looking up, and it stores that. And whenever you talk around your phone, a lot of your apps have that feature where it records your verbal responses or your text messaging or your access to your phones and your video recordings. And you realize that I was talking to somebody about something that I wanted to get, and all of a sudden there's all these advertisement pop-ups on your Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat, whatever you guys have that have those advertisements ready and willing for you. It's because they're listening in. And everybody knows this, and TikTok is the worst of it all. That's why I don't have it anymore. But the only way you can turn it off is by going into your settings, going into, your locked and your security, and you shut that off. However, with some phones like my own, you turn that off. But when you want to use your camera or your location system to try and look for directions, or you want to record like I'm recording right now for my vlogging, you have to turn it back on. And then you forget about it. And I'm just like, okay, well, what apps don't I really need? You know, so I delete all kinds of stuff all the time. I search through my phone. What can I delete that I don't need, you know? So just be aware, be mindful of yourself, because it's not just, you know, minors, it's adults as well. That's sad. That is so heart-wrenching to know. So without further ado, you guys, I know I took up about 25 minutes of your time. I'm going to try and edit that down to get it a little bit less, but this is going to be quite a long video. If you could stick through it, can you just post a Justice Matters heart emoji, red and black, down at the bottom, and I will meet you guys at the end.
I know we covered quite a bit of information. Hopefully you guys are getting your sugar highs and cookies around here. So a lot of the things that we were talking about is how our kids are being victimized and what you guys can do, maybe just in general, right, to talk with them and warn them about the dangers. What Jason's gonna actually go into further is kind of like how you can layer the protection starting from the house, right, and into your devices. So, I mean, I always say, and we were talking about it earlier, I'm glad you take your kids' phones away at the end of the night and all that other stuff, because, you know, back in the day when we were younger, right, we always tell our kids to stay away from strangers, stay away from the creepy white van, you know, all those kind of things. But now we give them a device that, you know, they can access the entire internet behind closed doors in their bedroom, doing whatever they want, unless you actually control it some way, right? But what you guys also got to think is the entire internet has access to your child. And all these online predators know, much like Jason was chatting at 1 o'clock in the morning, they know when these kids are going to be on these social media platforms, and that's why, you know, do what police parents are doing, right? Shut off the internet, take away their device. They're not allowed to have it in their room. You know, as they get older, that's a little different, but, you know, especially young kids, right? They shouldn't have an iPad at age 6 or 7 in their room so they're watching whatever cartoon as they go to sleep, because they might be using it for something else when you're not paying attention. So, having said all that, Jason's going to go and talk about the ways that you guys can actually help protect the kids via your router, your internet, and devices.
So the stuff that I'm going to talk about is going to be like the 10,000 foot view, because there are so many providers, so many devices, so many router manufacturers that it'd be impossible to list every single way that we can actually tell you how to set it up on your particular device. So what I'm going to do is just basically give you an overview of what is actually out there that I guarantee you already have. If you have the internet at the house and you have a cell phone in your pocket, or your kids have it, all this stuff is already there and you can just implement it. If any one of you wants to stay later, I'm more than happy to stay and actually answer some very specific questions after I'm recognizing the time. But I'll kind of breeze through it. But again, all of this that I'm going over is going to be stuff that you already have and what your devices most likely at home are capable of doing. So in terms of what are the best tools, not to get too geeky, but we kind of classified in different segments. The first segment here is what we call network layer controls. If you have internet at home, you have a router that is provided by either Verizon, by Frontier, or AT&T or someone, you guarantee you have the ability to set network layer controls at your house. Any internet service provided router gives you the ability to set these controls, and what it basically does is it limits your device access. You can set time restrictions, your URL filtering, which is basically your website filtering, keyword filters, and so on and so forth. And every single router that is provided guarantee has this ability. I will say if it's an internet provided router by Frontier or Verizon or whoever your provider is, there probably are some limitations. Not saying they're useless, it's just there are limitations. If you end up buying something at Costco, like the device over here to the right, this Netgear router that's $150, $200 on sale at Costco, it'll definitely give you more ability to set bigger parameters and be very specific on what you want to do. These solutions are very helpful if you're tech savvy, but I will say this, even if you're not really tech savvy, thank God for YouTube, because you can literally go on YouTube and search Netgear router setting privacy filters, and I guarantee there's probably 30 people that have created a video on how to do it. And so really it just comes down to how good is your Google foo, how good can you search something on the internet to do what it is you're trying to do. And this is again where YouTube comes in handy, where you can buy a router online and then go on and search whatever it is that you're trying to do if you're trying to limit a device. So when we talk about network layer controls, you're actually limiting at the network layer. What's nice about that is that when you're in the home and your actual device, whether it's your child, grandson, or whoever is trying to access the internet from their Wi-Fi device, they're going to be blocked at the network layer, meaning they're not going to be able to go any further than that. Here's the drawback though. If it's a teen, all they got to do is switch off the Wi-Fi and go to their cellular, and you have absolutely no control of it, and none of those features work. So every one of these controls that I'm going to talk about has its pros and cons and has drawbacks. It's really who the target audience is and who you're trying to actually protect. If it's a young child that's 3 or 4 years old who doesn't actually have a cell phone device, network layer controls are great because we know that iPad is strictly Wi-Fi and they can only access it at home. Every manufacturer has all these features. Most of them are the same, but they obviously vary by the brand and whatnot. Next, we'll go into what we call device level control. So your Apple iPhone, your iPod, your iPad, I don't think anybody has iPod touches anymore, but your iPad, they actually have device level controls. What's nice about device level controls is that it will work whether it's on a Wi-Fi connection or whether it's on a cellular connection. I will say I'm both an Android and an iPhone guy. This is where iPhones excel and shine, in my opinion. They are great for locking down a device. Most importantly though is that if you are going to lock down a device, you've got to set it up properly, because if you don't, then it's not going to be as good. It's like if we're installing a chain link fence around our house. If we only put it up 3 feet high, how good is that going to do to keep people out, right? We want to build it 20 feet high. And so setting up properly is important. But the big thing about Apple devices is that if you set it up as a family and you actually activate the parental controls from it and you set those limits, they're super effective. This is how I control my kid. When it comes to time limits, I've got him set so he can't have his phone after, or it automatically shuts off at 9:30. He can only contact the preferred contacts, which is myself, my wife, and then his sister, and then I think my parents. But it has some really great control, but again, you've got to set it up properly. The good thing about this is, again, going back to YouTube, how to set up parental controls on an iPhone, it'll populate 1,000 results with how to do it properly. You just got to take that time to do it. This will show you what you can do. You can set screen time. It'll ask you, is this phone for your child? What you want to access, the actual content. So like I told you, my son has an iPad, and I have YouTube Kids for him, but I set it that he can only view content for 5 and under. So that way I don't get the creepy old man videos where they're talking like about toy reviews. He can only watch like cartoons like Bluey and whatnot on it, not the creepy old man doing toy reviews. It's weird. What's cool about it though is that you could also limit websites. So he's really big into robot vacs right now, and so he likes going on Amazon and look at robots. It's so weird. He's 3 and he likes robot vacs, but he likes going on Amazon just to look at like robot vacuums. And so I can allow just him to go on Amazon to look at robot vacuums, and that's. No, like the little automated little Roomba. Yeah, the Roombas. Yes, it's so weird. Yeah. Anyways, moving on. Like kid in there, I know. But this is what it looks like if you set up a phone properly as a family share. You'll have all of these different dialogues, and the whole purpose of it is that once it's set up properly, you can actually see their usage, how long they're actually on a particular application, how long they're actually viewing, YouTube and whatnot. We actually use this feature on the left, the screen time, It's actually not the screen time, it's the battery feature in the settings when we do investigations, because you can't bypass these in a device. And so what's nice about that is that when we go to a suspect's house, we can actually see on his device, and he can't, unless he wipes his phone completely, he can't bypass this in any way. We can actually tell what applications he uses most frequently. So if he's on Telegram, Reddit, Kik, we'll know based off of the built-in feature that Apple actually provides. The nice thing about it is Android has a similar feature, which we'll show you here in a minute. But these device level controls become super useful, super handy. Again, this isn't a class where we're gonna walk you through it, but if it's something that you want help with, I will leave my contact information. I'm more than happy to help out. But YouTube is a great use, or a great resource for this stuff, because there are videos galore on this type of information. If you're not an Apple ecosystem family, the good news is that Google has a very similar feature. Again, admittedly, Apple is better in this realm, in my opinion, but Google's Android is just as good. You could set it up as a family, you can activate those parental controls, set those limits. The problem with Apple and iPhone and Google is that Apple controls the hardware and the software, where Google is just the software and any manufacturer can make it. So it becomes more difficult, because what happens is these manufacturers produce multiple devices that don't allow certain features on it. So that's where it becomes tedious. And I caution you that if you are on a Android device, it might be a little bit more hoops that you have to jump through to get to what you're trying to accomplish, because of the openness of the Android operating system. But again, when you set it up properly, you have the same type of controls, you have the same type of features. You can see what, applications they're actually using, how much they're using. You can see which games they downloaded, what applications. You can see their actual battery usage. There's a whole host of features that you can actually use and see. But again, it all comes down to if you set it up properly and manage it as a family device. Going into the third level, we call these application level controls. In my opinion, they're completely useless. But they're out there, and I'll tell you why I think they're useless. Snapchat has a like a parent feature that you can set up on and in Snapchat. The problem with that, though, is that if you set it up, kids will delete the app, re-download it, sign into their other throwdown account, and then your app controls are gone. And so then what they'll do is, as soon as they get home, they'll sign out of that, sign back into their account. Ask me how I know, because my kid did this.
Yep.
This is how I caught
Our
him.
boy did
Oh,
it.
look at that. See that?
Our son did it.
Yeah. Oh, no, he's probably worse than I am.
Yeah, he actually figured out how to override the parental controls.
Yeah.
He
So-
learned on YouTube. He was like, "Oh, I
But
can."
here's the thing, though. So I will say this. So
Yeah.
apples are pretty locked tight if you set it up properly.
Yeah, we have Android, so we're switching.
So again, if you set it up properly, they're super helpful. But the app level controls, in my opinion, they're easily manipulated, and you can override them super easy. But if this is all you have, this is all you have. Every single application that is monitored towards like 18, if it allows 18 under, they do have they're mandated to have application control, or excuse me, parental controls built in, but they can easily be subverted. So just know that. Again, it's as easy as just deleting the app, signing in on another account, and then re-signing in once you get home and your parents aren't there. Here's the nice thing, though, is again, if you trust your child enough that you have that trust, then you can actually set up the parental controls, and you can monitor, who their friends are on there. You can see, who they have contact with. So if you are a parent that has that trust in your child, then Snapchat parental controls aren't a bad thing, assuming they're not deleting it and, re-logging in and signing into their other account. This is what it looks like if you're a parent on the left-hand side and you have the parental control set up. On the right is your team view, where they only have access to certain contacts, certain people that they can actually communicate with. Ultimately, the best level of control that we feel, though, is, staying involved and actually monitoring it. When we talked about, this family here who has the great, ability to pull those devices at night, charge them up in the room, that's great. When I set up all my parental controls, my first mistake is I thought I set everything up and was like, okay, my kid's not gonna be able to bypass anything. And lo and behold, he did, and that's why he lost his phone for 8 months, because he intentionally bypassed that stuff. And so what I had to do going forward is I had to stay active and I had to monitor him. And like I mentioned earlier, this is exactly what we use, and this is, if you notice the name, it's mine. These are screenshots from my device. This is what we use when we go out to investigations, because we want to be able to see what our crooks are using on these devices. So I intentionally, when I created this PowerPoint, I intentionally deleted, I believe it was like YouTube Kids. I let it play for 20 minutes or whatever prior to me creating these slides, and then I purposely deleted it because I wanted to show. So what you're looking for here is when you go into your settings and you go into, and this is on an iPhone and I'll show you here in a minute on an Android, but if you go into like your settings and you go to battery, and in your battery you scroll down, you'll see a list of all the applications that I use. So in this case I use Chrome a lot, I use my home and lock screen, I use my phone, messages, this is my Connect app, but then you see here, recently deleted apps. And so this is how my son got caught, is I went to his, he thought he was slick and he was downloading Snapchat when he wasn't supposed to have it and then deleted it at night. And then when I looked at his battery usage, it showed recently deleted, he had like 30%. I'm like, really? What are you using 30% of your battery? And he came clean and told me it was Snapchat. And that's when he lost his phone. So this comes in handy for you as parents or guardians to be able to see what your child is actually using, what application they're really involved with. And this you cannot delete, you can't erase, it actually stays in your iPhone. And so even if your child is trying to lie to you, their application, their settings will not lie. They'll tell you exactly what you're using. This is just the Android version of what we talked about in iOS. If you go down to your settings and you go down to battery, you scroll up, you hit that view detail button, and you'll see here, I love being on Reddit. I like Reddit, I read all my news from there. And this is all of the actual screen time and the percentages of my usage. I didn't delete it for the Android when I forgot to, but if I deleted the app, it'll say the exact same thing. It'll say recently deleted app, 15%. And it'll show up in this exact list just like you saw on the iOS one. Third-party parental controls, I'll say this. A lot of people put a lot of faith in, Bard, in Family Time, in Safe Family, in ESET, in RPAC, Guardian. These are all third-party applications. They're all good and they all have a purpose, but just know, just like most of these parental control apps, if we're not monitoring them and we're not setting them up properly, they're useless. And so there are some good ones in there. There's not one particular one that I like or I favor. Each of them have their pros and cons. What I will say this is, they're harder to set up. If you end up going with a third-party solution that you can download in the App Store and you go with, any one of these here in this list, they're harder to set up on an iPhone than they are on an Android because iPhone is so locked down. It'll require you to actually hook up the phone to a computer and actually use iTunes to allow certain features. And so just know you're gonna be running through hoops. But here's the thing, there's YouTube. YouTube, I guarantee, will have like a way to show you how to set it up if that's what you want. Most of those third-party application controls do require a subscription fee. Again, I'm not particular into one of these and I don't favor one, so it's up to you, do your research. I find that the parental controls in both Apple and Google are more than sufficient, again, assuming you set it up properly. On a quick side note, any one of those third-party applications, if you actually install it on a device, it's going to slow your device down and it's going to drain your battery. So if your device is like an older hand-me-down for your child, they're probably going to complain because it's slow and the battery's dying, because those devices weren't built to run those applications that require it to run all the time. And so unless you're on that newest iPhone 15 or the newest Galaxy, which I hope not, because they're like $1,500 phones. But well, then in that case, I hope you're tithing to the church a lot. So you can have that. But so things to know and what to look for on your kid's phone is Hidden photo vaults. There's a lot of applications in iOS and in the Google Play Store that allow the ability to hide photos. And so they disguise them as different apps. The problem with those though is that they won't show up in a gallery. So if you're checking your kids' phones at night and you're looking at their photos and you're like, oh, okay, these all look like, harmless, photos at school. Not saying your kids are doing it, but there's a possibility they actually have photos in a hidden photo vault somewhere. And so trying to find out which app that is that they're hiding in is something that you're gonna need to do.
So just know that on new Apple devices, they have that hidden photo capability. It's built into the newest iOS operating system. So if you have Apple, just make sure that you are looking at your kid's phone in regards to the hidden photo application. As long as you have their passcode, you can access those hidden things.
Yeah, so by default, iOS, like Joel mentioned, has 2 folders that are intentionally behind either biometrics, face recognition, thumb, if it's an older iPhone, that automatically hide images, and it's the hidden folder. You have to actually select the image that you want hidden, and it'll be placed in there, and then it'll be locked behind one of those folders. And if you're unaware, recently deleted is a folder now in iOS. It's been for a few iterations, but that's a feature where if they took a photo of something and they deleted it, as long as they can empty that recycle bin, for those of us that know about computers, empty recycle bin, it's still in the deleted folder, but it only is there for 30 days. So if they deleted it and didn't delete the folder, then there's a likelihood that the photo is still in there, assuming it was taken within the last 30 days. Social media chats, they're difficult because a lot of them, one, require internet. So if you're at home and you don't have Wi-Fi, you don't have internet, and your son or daughter is using them at school or whatnot, you're likely not able to pull them up. But here's the nice thing: if you have a phone that has the capability, tether your phone, make your phone a hotspot, allow them to connect, so that way you can read it. Because most of these social media chat or apps won't allow you to view a chat unless it's connected to the internet, because all of that information is stored on the server. So just know that you have to have internet connectivity to look at some of this stuff. There are lots of messaging apps out there, not just iMessage or like Google's native RCS or SMS messages. And so just be mindful that, you might just know that there's a chat application or a text messaging application, but a lot of kids don't even text through like the carrier anymore. They download, that's so old. They download like WhatsApp, they download Kik, they download Snapchat, Instagram. They can text through Instagram and DM through Instagram. And so know that there's not just one location that you're going to be looking at for messages. There's going to be multiple. And so this is where looking at the battery information, seeing what applications they use and what they're on regularly, and that's going to be your like number one go-to. Hey, what am I going to go look at? What am I going to go check? Because if they're on Reddit, like I am, 40% of the day, then that's probably where I'm going to have most of my communication at in Reddit. So
Just one thing, or just 2 really quick things. I know we're pushing time here. I don't want to keep you guys any longer than your St. Patty's Day, celebration. But cash apps, those are something that you guys should probably pay attention to on any of your kids' devices. If they have Apple, right? They have an Apple phone, Apple Pay, right? That's common. But if they have something that is a totally different type of digital currency on their phone, it's very possible that they might be like an old page or doing something to earn extra income, and you should be able to access into that. You should be able to see, so why do you have $500 in this cash app? And there's a bunch of digital currency applications that are out there. But one other thing you guys can do, the routers that you guys have at the home, you guys are ready to take the devices, but one thing that's listed on here is you can look for any devices that are unknown to your network that connected to it, right? If you guys like take your kids' phones away and all that other stuff, who's to say that they didn't get a burner phone from a friend and you're going through your router network and going, what the hell is this?
my kid did it too.
But it's kids are, oh my God, they are so.
How many of us actually have old phones or tablets or computers in a drawer somewhere?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I locked everything down on my kid, what did he do? He grabbed one of my old phones. And so, and how I caught him that time was I look in the route logs, going back to the network layer control stuff, in your router, it actually logs every device that's connected. Every device has a unique serial number, not like a hash like I talked about earlier, but it has what we call a MAC address, and it's specifically for connecting to the internet. Every time not your device particularly, but a device connects to the internet, it is logged through a MAC address. And so this is where looking at your logs and seeing which devices are actually connected, and then comparing to what you know, like let's say, okay, I've got 2 phones. I've got a Galaxy and an iPhone. Okay, those are my 2 phones. But now you see, an iPad, and you don't own an iPad. Well, this is where it's incumbent on you to figure out where that iPad is and who it is, where it's coming from. Maybe your son or daughter lent the Wi-Fi password to a neighbor, and maybe it's the neighbor's, but maybe not. Maybe this is where, your son or daughter, granddaughter, grandson is actually communicating with someone, and they bought them a device. We've seen it pretty regularly where one of the first questions asked is like, hey, do you have a phone? Does your mom check it? I'm gonna send you a phone. And then the perpetrator will send a phone because they know, we get a lot of odd faces, but it happens. They'll send a phone to their child so that they can communicate undetected. Because they know parents are now educated with these application layer controls and these parental controls and whatnot.
Yeah, so again, the previous slide, I just jumped through it because we're gonna wrap it up here, is know your kids' devices, know their passcodes, know their PIN codes. Don't allow them to set a separate passcode that you can't have access to. If it's, like you said, it's your device, it's your home, you pay for it, they gotta earn that trust, right? So it's unfortunate, you can't be their friend, you gotta be their parent, right? And that's the biggest thing that we try to push. And the secret sauce, as we always call it, is you gotta build that trust. You need to communicate with the kids, right? You need to be engaged, stay involved, because if they do come across something, even if they're the younger ones, if they come across something that's super inappropriate, they wanna be able to feel safe and know that they're not gonna get in trouble by bringing it to your attention. Rather than you go, hey, why are you even looking at that stuff? It's like, okay, well, where did you find that? Because there's a lot of pop-ups that happen. There are a lot of pop-up links, and sometimes these folks are pretty snazzy about creating a pop-up link that will open up like child. And as long as your kid feels comfortable talking to you about it, say, hey, I was on YouTube Kids and this thing popped up, you might be able to report it to YouTube Kids and say, hey, now you have something that they can take off their platform. But
the last thing here, this is a nice tool that just actually got implemented within the last probably 6-8 months or so. NCMEC, so the National Center for Missing Exploited, NCMEC.org, NCMEC.org, has this ability, what they call take it down. If your son, daughter, grandson, grandchild somehow got some of their photos online, you're gonna go to this website and actually go to the take it down portion of it. What they're gonna ask you is gonna sound weird, but we talked about it and why they want it, is you're gonna have to upload the original photo to NCMEC, because what they're gonna do is they're gonna hash it. And then, so what that does though is that prevents anybody else from sharing it. Not initially, but it prevents that viral photo or that viral video going out. I just came across an article, it was a school in LA County that, I don't even know the exact number, but there was a lot of viral images that were being shared amongst a big group of kids. Exactly what we talked about. Someone trusted their boyfriend or girlfriend at the time, sent some photos, and then what did that kid do is they shared it with literally the entire school. And so this resource from NCMEC allows you to upload that photo to them and then hash it so that if this photo gets sent across anybody's servers, it automatically gets flagged as known child pornography, and it forces that provider to take it off and actually disable that account immediately. So that's the cool feature that just came out. It's sad that it took so long, but this is a resource where before it was common, and I did it on patrol, where we would go and be like, there's nothing we can do. Once it's on the internet, it's on the internet. Well, now there's a resource now we can actually go to and refer back to, and hopefully take it down and never see it again, back online being shared.
And before we go to the last slide, one thing I do want to touch base with you guys is AI, artificial intelligence. Okay, that is going to be the most dangerous thing in regards to the internet and your kids, because if they don't have their profile set to private or, you know, whatever the case. And parents, we're warning parents, hey, be careful of what you're posting on your own profile. Pictures of your kids at the beach or whatever, because Taylor Swift, right? That happened. All they did was take her image and they AI'd it to make it a full kind of image of her, because that's what's happening nowadays. And so it's super incumbent upon you guys at this point right now to be careful and really warn the kids about what they're sharing online, because they're like, oh no, that's just we're at the beach, right? We're in bathing suits, not a big deal. It's as soon as that's a public photo that's on Instagram or on Snapchat or whatever, and someone gets in touch of that image, they can AI it, and AI is rapidly like increasing its technology, and it's getting scary because they're
Unfortunately, too, in California, there's no law. There's legislation that's being proposed now, but there's no actual law in the books as of today that bans AI images. So if your son or daughter is victim to it, there's nothing that we can do, at least now legally, to take it down. And it doesn't meet the criteria for child pornography because it's not a real person. So
might be their face, but there's legislation being talked. And we end it with the QR code for our dogs. The only reason we share their QR code, their Instagram photos, or their pages, is because we want to always spread awareness, right? We want to let
Joe
you guys
wants
know.
followers. He really
And we do like followers. But no, honestly, it allows everyone to know that it's happening in your own backyard, right? We're out in Marietta, and we arrested probably 2 or 3 people just last week. We'll be in Temecula. We'll be in Riverside. We're going to be our whole next week. This upcoming week, every single day of our work week, Tuesday through Friday, we have an operation going. And on I think Tuesday or Wednesday, Thursday, it's going to be 2 different operations on the same day. So again, we're doing what we can to try and make our community safer, protect kids. But ultimately, it's incumbent upon you guys to share this information, talk to the kids, share it with family and friends that you know, and let them, understand that, this has to stop, because our caseload, and I've been doing it since 2015, has not slowed down. And with that happened in 2020, in 1 year time, our caseload quadrupled. So it's not slowing down, and it's, like I said, it's getting out of hand, and the more people who are aware of it and can be proactive about it, hopefully we'll put a dent in it. But until then, any questions? Or do you guys, most of you guys know already what the dogs do?
It said it on one of the slides.
It did. They're ESD dogs, electronic storage detection dogs, right? They're pretty much trained to smell out anything that can store digital media, whether it's a cell phone, a thumb drive, an external hard drive, computer, iPad, your your Apple Watch, anything that can store little SD cards that go in GoPros, right? So a lot of times in the cases that we work, our suspects like to hide the child material on devices that are easily hidden, whether it's a little thumb drive, a micro SD card, whatever it might be, in a drawer or mixed and make it look like a toy. And so our dogs' noses are trained to smell out the specific chemical compound on those devices. It's a very unique odor, and so what our eyes can't see, their nose can smell. So it helps us to make sure that we're not missing any type of evidence that's going to be crucial for the prosecution of the case. So that, in a nutshell, is what they do. And what Jason already said, they are a huge therapy factor for what we do.
How do they let you know when they find something?
Well, this one,
So he is pretty aggressive on the odor, right? So once he's got an odor that he wants, he'll really, like if it's in the crevice of a couch, he'll punch his nose in the couch. He's gonna try and put the device in
he's
his
a bull
mouth.
in the china shop.
Yeah, he'll dig, and then I'm like, all right, he's on something.
Both of them, or which one are you talking about?
This
No,
one,
this one, he's
this one will
just,
sit. This one's
no, he
good.
wants
This
to,
one's behaved.
he wants to put it in his mouth. He wants to feel the device. He goes, I smell it, I want it in my mouth. And so, there's difference of opinions in that regard.
The dogs, to answer the question more specifically, the dogs are passive alert. They're supposed to sit. Depending on the area that they're searching, if they're on like a bunk bed and the ceiling is 2 feet above them, they'll just stand there and look at you. And then we'll know because we've trained with them now. if they're on an odor, and the way we train is we'll ask them to show us, and they'll actually point to where the odor's at that they're smelling.
I'm sure he tried
We
to-
would have done a demo for you guys, but I don't know why we didn't. But no, it's late now. I don't want to keep you guys any longer.
How come Chewy has a lot more followers than?
He's been around quite a bit longer. That's a sore subject for you. No, but
I'm following
honestly,
you now. I'm following you now.
So what,
Our
what
pastor
honestly,
asked that question.
We in the early parts of our becoming a K9 team, our teams are super busy. So the nonprofit that sponsored us really, you know, they're trying to promote the ESD K9 program because what they do is they sponsor these type of dogs to law enforcement agencies around the United States. So far, they're at about 90 law enforcement agencies that they paid for the dogs for their training and given it to agencies that otherwise couldn't afford to have one of these type dogs. But because Chewy is a chocolate lab, which is even more rare with the work that we do, because he doesn't, for whatever reason, chocolate labs are supposed to be more temperamental and they're like more difficult to train. He didn't want to train the brown lab, but when he went to evaluate him, he couldn't pass him up. He just was super driven to kind of get on odor and try to get, you know, the way he evaluates them, he was just, I can't let him go. The nonprofit that was repurposing these dogs was so happy that he took Chewy. His name was initially Hersey because he was a bully. He was kind of like, oh, give me food, and he would brush people and all this
You
stuff.
can
So-
tell he's grown out of it, huh?
yeah, exactly. So, but I've gotten used to it. Yes, ma'am.
If we want, or I don't know, like, how do you get into a school? Like, my daughter's in middle school. Like, would I request her principal? or?
I'll leave a business card and reach out to Joel or myself, and then email me. And then when we tell people, as a matter of fact, when we were in Marietta a couple weeks back, I met a lady. She just called me last week. She's already ran it by her principal. Just email me some dates. Have the administrator reach out to me, and then give me some dates, and then we'll make it work. Just because of how busy we are, we typically like to tell. Oh, look at that! Oh, I only have 2 cards left. 3 cards.
He's so popular. Damn, that hurt.
Just because of how busy we are, we like to tell them, like, hey, give us at least 3 or 4 dates, like a couple months in advance, so we can kind of pick and choose and put on the calendar. Just because, although this is a big part of our job, we still have a caseload that we work, and we still obviously do investigations and whatnot. So,
Yes, ma'am.
As far as, I know you had mentioned a little bit about location. What is your recommendation as far as like allowing apps to like use location, like, and also updating phones?
always keep your phone updated, 100%. Because there's all, aside from like the child exploitative purposes, I mean, there's all viruses and ransomware out there and stuff like that. So always keep it updated with the newest security patches. But in terms of sharing the location, the nice thing about both Google and Apple phones is that you can be app selective on what apps use location. Obviously, like Find My app for my family, like I love it. Like I can find him, he's in DC, and I can look where he's at right now. But when it comes to like Snapchat, when you know there are devices or apps that are communicating with your friends, I'm not a fan of it. This is really going to be just how much you trust your child and whether or not you think it's beneficial for them to know where their friends are at. Now, a lot of apps may not actually have like a geolocate feature, but they provide services based off of location. I guess really if you just know the app and you feel like, okay, a bad guy can't know where my kid's at, but it allows my kid to find the nearest Starbucks. Like so we'll use a Starbucks app for instance, you need location services turned on to find the nearest Starbucks. So in that case, okay, turn it on only for that app. But when it comes to like a chat app like this Ren's one, yeah, no, I 100% say no.
Okay, I'm recording this for
Yes.
my YouTube channel. What would you say to my viewers on how they can go about contacting their police stations in the areas that they live in order to find out information like this for their state or their community?
So, like we mentioned earlier, every locale is a part of a region of ICAC. So, depending on where they live, if they're in California, they're one of the 5. If you're in San Bernardino, Riverside, Orange County, you're a part of the San Diego ICAC. If you're in, Los Angeles and whatnot, I would say if it's an issue that requires immediate attention, obviously calling 911, getting hold of somebody there. But the actual ICAC run by the feds, it's out of the DOJ website. I don't remember the URL off the top of my head, but you can go online and you can actually search for like the ICAC that's in your area. If it's like specific to, you know, child predator stuff that you want to be able to reach out to them directly because you feel maybe the patrol officers aren't capable of handling something like that. But NCMEC is another great resource because, like Joel mentioned earlier, they can do citizen complaints on NCMEC. I will say this, if it's an urgent thing though, it's probably going to take a little bit of time, so still reach out to the local law enforcement. But if it's something that, you know, can be, it can go through the ringer and take a little bit of time to get to us, then NCMEC is a good resource because you can create a complaint online, it'll generate to their call center, and then it'll get routed to the appropriate ICAC if they don't know where the ICAC is at.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Anything else? You guys are ready for St. Patty's Day.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
All right, you guys, that was so informative. I went through the whole thing while I was editing, and just to hear everything over again really put things into a greater perspective for me, and just the things that I need to get done for my kids and be more aware of, you know, what they're looking at. And just the other day, my daughter was on her tablet. She was on YouTube, and my son had told her, you're not supposed to be watching that YouTuber, because we have straight restrictions on certain YouTubers that she can't watch. And she was watching that one, and he was just like, you can't be on that, you can't be on that. And she was being all, you know, sassy, like, you can't tell me what to do. So he took it from her, deleted YouTube, and gave me and Dad her tablet. And we were like, good job, son. I'm not opposed to my boys taking reins when it comes to discipline in that area for my daughter, because they already have been through that era and they know what's going on in this world more than me and their father, because we're not, you know, I'm personally not tech savvy. My husband is a telecommunications technician, so he knows the basis of the technology. So I am always being informed by him, my kids. So I try to stay up to date as much as I can, just like the officer said that they try to, you know, and we learn from our kids. We learn from our kids. My almost 16-year-old, you know, like you heard me say in the video, I've had the parental controls on there before. I don't know how he did it, but he overrided it. As soon as his phone's changed, even though I changed the number on the settings for it, he still overrode it. I don't know. He figured out how he can disconnect from that. And so now I have to go back and see how I can put it back on. But I do have a full private video of the entire seminar strictly for my church. However, if you guys are interested, I will post my email down below. If you want to see from beginning to end, you can post that, or you can email me and I will email it, the link to you. Now, I know I told you guys last month that I was going to be doing a giveaway for the book, the scrunchie, the lip balm, and all the other pamphlets and the goodies that I did get from our last Justice Matters seminar that we had at our church last month, and I believe it was February. However, everything that happened, you guys know. So I kind of let that fall to the wayside, and I really apologize. So I'm going to be going back to the comment section in that video, and I will be doing the giveaway, and I will post it on my community page. So you guys be on the lookout for that this week. Also, if you guys are interested in donating any items to these rescue shelters that rescue these people from human trafficking, I will be posting those once again down below, and you guys can click on the links and you can see where you would like to donate. That would be much appreciated. I know that some of them are looking for diapers between the sizes of, I believe, 4 and 6, and that saddens me. Just those sizes are needed for that small of a child. I know that they need toiletries and personal hygiene feminine products. Thank you guys so much for just being so supportive of this venture that I'm taking. I just felt like I needed to do more, and this one is a passion of mine. I have been witness to some crazy, crazy, heart-wrenching things in my lifetime. And it just makes me want to do so much more. If I took that military route that I really wanted to, I have no doubt in my mind that I wouldn't be married, I wouldn't have kids, but I'd be out there digging in trenches trying to find all these people. However, that's not the route that the Lord had for me. I am a mother of 3 that I get to protect from this world, and I get to learn and teach, and that is a privilege that I take. And I am honored to have that the Lord decided that, hey, you and your husband get to be in charge of 3 human beings. Oh man, that is just so wild to me, even at my age and how old my children are. It's just wild to me. But you guys have a blessed rest of your Wednesday, a blessed rest of your week, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.